Hi viewers, it's me, Cola Pro, and today we are going to go over round 1. And today we have the whole Crash team. So I'm here, of course, Katote.
Hello.
And Desert Monkey JK.
Hello, hello.
So we're gonna talk about the matches that have been done and uploaded after the first video we did. And
yeah, there's been a lot of races. There was I think something like 23 uploaded before the halftime show, and since then, I mean, obviously all the round 1 up races have been uploaded, so it was like 37 races or something ridiculous like that. So there's a lot to go through, but we'll try to do it.
And we're at the end of this, we're going to go over Rotipot, which is basically the same thing like last time. We're gonna choose our favorite matches. So we're going to go over Group A matches first. The first match of Group A that happened after the video was Crash Numbers versus Duck Lizard. And pretty much for this race, it was a very good race, and it was a very clutch moment for Lizard in Tomb Raider, in my opinion. I think if he, didn't clutch that, I think he would have lost maybe that race. So that was
it was because we already had like Toto versus I believe Dark Lizard, which was one of the kind of best showings of skills in the first section of the tournament. And so it was interesting seeing these two as well. And I would have expected Crash for 1596 to pull it off, but he's probably very rusty, as shown by that race. But it was still very close anyway.
So after that, we have another Group A match. This was between Smudging versus Crosstown Express. So that was a Crash Team Racing Nitrofield race, and that was the second Nitrofield race in the whole tournament so far. And it was a very long race, and Crosstown Express had to stay up very late for him.
It was the longest round 1 race out of all of them. It was like over an hour, but we kind of let it slide because the loading times in Nitrofield are absolute garbage.
Sure.
It's like 30 seconds per loading time, and obviously there's a lot of races going on in that one. So it was also quite unpredictable because there was the wheel. It was a wheel race. I don't think there was any other wheel race. I think was there another wheel race in round 1? I don't think there was. So it ended up picking kind of longish kind of goals twice in a row. But it was actually incredibly close. They only separated them by about a minute. Wasn't that right, Cola?
Yeah, something like that. It was I think worth it at the end.
Yeah, Spongy caught up because of the wheel. Basically, it kind of helped him in his favor.
The next race we're gonna talk about is Smudgy versus Crash Numbers. They did a Crash 2, and it was an even match between both of them, but Crash Numbers managed to inch ahead and claim the win.
Pretty much the whole time, for what I noticed is that they managed to keep pace with each other. Really, a lot of it kind of came down to just overall gains over the other, just very slightly.
Yeah, I mean it was an unfortunate group for Smudgy and Crosstown because basically if Morgan Avery didn't quit, we would have, or Crash Bash Legend I should call him, Dark Lizard would have been in his own group. He would have had his own. He would have been a tier 1. He would have been, and so basically they've got essentially 2 tier 1 people and Crash for 1596 in their group, Smudgy and Crosstown, and it's just really difficult, and it's very unfortunate. I think Smudgy ended up losing all his races when, if he was in another group, like if he was in my group, he probably would have done pretty well.
So the next match that happened in Group A was Crash for 1596 versus Crosstown Express. This was a pre-recorded race where we had 2 audios.
We ended up using Crash for 1596's audio, but in a couple of days there will be a special edition of that race released with Crosstown Express's version of the audio, and it was a very, very interesting commentary sesh. Definitely worth a watch/listen. Definitely the spiciest commentary we've had all around. But yeah, Matt absolutely pummeled Crosstown in that race, which wasn't incredibly surprising.
So next race was Toto Ziggum versus Crash for 1596, and it was a Crash 3 race, and it was pretty much neck and neck, and it was a very interesting goal as well. And Toto barely managed to win by getting a crystal before pretty much Matt or Crash for 1596 got it. so that gave him the win.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really expect Matt to be able to de-rust that quickly. You know, he almost took down Toto. Which what is Toto's best Crash game? Is it Crash 3?
I thought it was Crash 3. I think it is, but maybe
Yeah,
it's Crash 3
I just
now,
remember
'cause-
listening to the commentary of that, and Matt was complaining about how he hates Crash 3 when he was doing the race.
That's
So
right, yeah.
considering that fact, Toto did. I mean, Matt did pretty well, and I think he has some longevity to go in the rest of the tournament because of that.
Yeah. And the last match of Group A was Crosstown Express versus Toto Zigum. And it was a very funny Crash Bash race, I must say. They had to get a Platinum Relic, so that was just, calling for chaos at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, he did it pretty quickly, actually. Crosstown did everything else pretty quickly, but when it came to the Platinum, he was on it. He started that. Then Toto eventually got on whilst he was doing it, and then he kind of stopped recording, and then we were like, all right, Toto, you can do your side, and then Toto did his side whilst he was still playing it, and he still hadn't got it. But just as Toto was just about to stop his recording, I like put the I watched his stream. Streamed it again, and he just finished it just after, so it was very good timing, but it did take him over an hour. So
a miracle happened.
Oh, actually, I think it was about an hour and a half, actually. But
Yes.
yeah, it was pretty much a miracle.
But I want to say props to you, Crosstown Express, for not letting Crash Bash defeat you.
That's right.
Not a lot of people can say.
So I believe there was, I think, 4 races in Group A which were not live. Actually, there was, I think, that not only that race, which it sort of was live because Toto showed up like right after, but not really. But the other races, the Crash for 1596's races, all of his except for Dark Lizard was not live. We made sure that he pre-recorded his sides because we just could never get him and his opponents online at the same time. But I mean, I think it ended up well. You know, I don't think anyone did more than one recording. So I still think that that Matt deserved his win. But I hope that we can see some more live races with him in the next rounds.
Same here.
Group A ended with Toto first, then Dark Lizard, and then Crash for 1596. The points went 8-7-6-5-4. Basically, Toto beat everyone. Dark Lizard beat everyone except for Toto. Matt beat everyone except for Toto and Dark Lizard, etc., etc. A very clean end of the group. And, unfortunately, Spongy and Crosstown Express had no hope in this group with that competition.
Let's go over Group B then. So the first race we had Heitem 14 versus Kotote. So it was Crash 3 race, and it was pretty interesting to see.
Is this the one where I got trolled by the death routes?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like I seem to be getting these kind of differences in stories of whether or not the death route disappears if you die before the first checkpoint. Because I'm pretty sure that's the only time I died on that level, and it wasn't there. I didn't restart the level.
They both struggled in their different ways, but Kotote whooped Heitem pretty much in that race. So that was
despite
the first race.
Despite complications with the death route.
So the next race we have Heitem 14 versus Graveyard Magician, and this race was showed us that Graveyard is pretty good at Crash Team Racing, pretty much. I think everyone was shocked.
Very surprising.
Yeah.
He just played really well. And the race that actually went out right after this, and I know we're kind of breaking form by talking about another group, but Marcus Terry Belated versus Vinny Huber. I think it was amazing because we saw 3 great talents at CTR right after each other. They were all amazing at CTR, and I know that we're trying to encourage people to play the original 3 games, but I kind of do want to see what will happen in a CTR race between Graveyard and Marcus if that pops up at any time in the future, because they're both really good.
I think that Graveyard and Marcus are pretty matched in CTR, while Vinny is a bit better than them.
Vinny is really good, yeah.
Yeah.
So there was also Graveyard Magician versus Yoga. And I think this is probably one of the biggest upsets of the round, because I think Yoga, in hindsight, he's actually not that bad at Crash, especially at Crash 3. He's not bad at all. I'm just thinking about his race with Heitem, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I think it was simply because Yoga just made some really dumb decisions when it came to picking relics. He chose a lot of long relics, later game relics, whilst Graveyard just went from literally just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's all he did. And then Graveyard managed to win. Because I did beat Graveyard by a fair bit in Crash 3. So yeah, I was very surprised that Graveyard would manage to do it. But fair play to him. He ended up second in his group.
Yoga managed to still go through, which is great for him.
Yeah, Yoga's third place. He's still in the tournament, so no, not too much harm. And actually, Graveyard is now put against Crash for 1.96, so it's wasn't too much of a great prize to be second, unfortunately.
The next race in Group B was TK versus Yoga Monio. So this was the only race that was Crash 2 Cortex Forgets Back, and that's a mod pretty much for Crash 2. And it was a very epic race, I might say. And we're just gonna apologize for Crash Crush. So
yeah, I figured that's where they would get stuck the most, because wall of nitro crates you can't see coming, if anything.
Yeah,
it was pretty terrible. I think it was most amount of crystals in 30 minutes, and I think they ended up there in maybe about the 12th minute, and both of them were stuck on there for 20 minutes. It was kind of unfortunate.
Because there's no checkpoints in that mod.
Yeah.
That's the other problem.
That's right.
And no masks.
Yeah, actually, Yoga ended up actually pulling it off without save states. I think, without save states. After the race was over, he kind of kept on going, and he eventually did it. So that was pretty impressive that he was able to do that. But Yoga. That was basically Yoga sealing his place in round 2 ahead of TK. And TK losing is probably the biggest upset of round 1, I think, and I think they discussed that a little bit in the Wumpa cast as well.
Also, we have Kotote versus TK. I guess I'll let you talk about that one because you were in it.
Yeah, it was Crash 1 Bingo. This was the first time we tried out Crash 1 Bingo. I hadn't played it at all before that. And this was a really great race. I'd really kind of screwed up at the beginning. I was we both did Pappy versus Brew, and he managed to get there first. And then I completely just died. I got game over actually in Jaws of Darkness. And then eventually I was able to just get a few goals. I don't think I sniped him on anything, maybe, I don't know. And he made some kind of bad decisions, and then I was able to just rush Cortex right at the end, and I was able to just win with 7 seconds left to go. So it was a very good race. It didn't actually mean anything in terms of TK. I think he was already knocked out at that point, but it meant that I'd completely sweeped my group, which is not something I've done since I must be around 8, I believe.
So we also have Yoga Monio versus 8M14. So this was an interesting race. Pretty much what happened to Yoga earlier with Graveyard's race pretty much happened to Hatem. Hatem had some poor outing choices, and he had some bad luck as well, which gave Yoga an edge to get the win, I think.
Yeah, this was the race which I forgot to fucking stream it on the right place. I kind of did a artist's interpretation of the first I think it was 15 minutes or something like that. But this is the race where I really saw looked at Yoga and said, oh shit, this guy isn't actually bad at Crash 3 at all.
That's right.
So yeah, he played really fast, and by the time he had finished, I think Hatem maybe had 1 gem or something, and I think Yoga had he'd done obviously he'd done everything, which was it was 8 gems, and they weren't easy gems either.
Yeah, poor Hatem. I think it came underprepared for this one.
So the final race of the group was TK versus Hatem, and again it was a Crash 3 race. Both of them had a good start, but Hatem kind of choked in Warp Room 4, and TK managed to get a win at the end.
Yeah, I think that race was dumb. You have to get a gem in each warp room, and it's just keep doing laps background. So TK managed to do all 5 warp rooms and then get back to the first one again. Unfortunately, Hatem didn't really get that far.
Alright, so for Group B, Kotote managed to swipe the group with 8 points. After him is Graveyard, who lost only to him. Yogamonio after him, who only lost to Graveyard and Kutote, and then TK and then Atem.
First match of Group C since the halftime show was Corporo versus Averso. That was Crash 1. Very enjoyable race. It was a goal that I was kind of looking forward to seeing how people did, and Averso did a really interesting route. Generally just a very fun race. But yeah, Averso definitely pulled off yet another strong win in Crash 1. Then we had Lucas Bolton versus Corporo. So this is another one of the races that hit the time limit. They were almost done. It was like get like 3 gems in every warp room and then like 5 gold relics or something. It was like a way too long of a goal. The stress got to both of them, especially Lucas. He was saying that but there was a lot of kind of mistakes kind of all around in that race, but generally it was a very fun race.
So next one is Indictive versus the Gangster. So in this race, they had all ability fell to him, and for some reason Gangster did not remember Speed Torch was available, while Zen did, so that kind of gave him an edge, but well, he was doing pretty okay until he decided to do one of his swing levels, and that's where he kind of got stuck on doing like, I think, a relic or something. So I think partly because of that and maybe other things, that's kind of what allowed Gangster to get ahead of him and pretty much take the win for that match.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised that Gangster won that race after he was like really strong showing against Lucas Bolton in Crash 3. I suppose it didn't require beating Dingadal, so he didn't have to worry about that. But yeah, like Gangster using slide jumps is kind of a bit of a theme going on in this round. I noticed that Haytam was also refusing to use the speed shoes, even though he had it available to him. So people just they think it's too fast, they think it's too much cheating, and they just don't want to use the speed shoes.
So if you're against speed shoes, type hashtag speed shoes against speed shoes, type hashtag boycott speed shoes in the comments. So Kupro versus the Gangster was a very interesting race in my opinion. It was kind of long because they were both fucking up, and it was interestingly enough a close race. Because Kupro kept resetting his relics, even though he didn't maybe really need to reset them. He just felt like he needed to reset them for some reason. So that kind of cost him a good amount of time. But he did manage to win at the end of the day.
So the next one is the Gangster versus Verso. And this one was really more, I guess, a showcase of like, how effective good movement is. And Averso, well, he's kind of experienced with that, and Gangster did a pretty good effort. Averso just basically just sped right onto the finish line in this one and got all the gems he needed.
Yeah, well, Averso already showed that he was amazing at Crash 1. Like, he had 3 Crash 1 races this round. He's also quite good at Crash 2, obviously. I think it's his best game. He's done like mods of Crash 2 as well. Very curious to see him play Crash 3, how he is there. I think he said he doesn't like it because of like the non-platforming, like the vehicle levels.
Yeah, but, I think he Toto will win the race, but that's my prediction. But
yeah, because I think if they play like maybe somehow they exclude the vehicle levels, like I don't know, a race to get X amount of gems or something in the platforming levels, I think that he wouldn't mind that too much. But but yeah, I'm definitely curious to see that.
I was kind of surprised that he agreed on Crash 3, knowing that it's his verse.
Yeah, so, I guess maybe he felt like he had to do Crash 3 because he did Crash 1 and 2 in round 1.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
And then there was Indictive versus Corporo, and this is the only, so far, Crash Bandicoot Raffle Cortex race in the tournament. Corporo suffered a game crash, and Def early on, and like Zim was winning for a fair bit. But then Corporo ended up recovering and beat Zin by about 30 seconds to a minute. So it was a very close race. Yeah, and I kind of felt bad that Zin wasn't able to win this one because it meant that he had 4 losses. But yeah, that was enjoyable because we don't really see Crash Raffle Cortex that often.
So about the table, Averso swept the group with 8 points, 4 wins. Corporo was second with 3 wins, and he had 7 points, so he only lost to Averso. Lucas was third, and he lost to both Corporo and Averso. So again, pretty straightforward group.
That's right. Yeah, very clean table once again, just like A and B.
So the first Group D race was Keyford versus Placey Hall. Placey Hall pretty much kind of destroyed Keyford, but it was kind of expected because Keyford isn't really a Crash guy, so...
I don't know if he's much of a Spyro guy either. Maybe a My Little Pony guy, I'm not really sure.
After that, we had a very, very good race, actually. The Acorn versus Placey Hall. It's one of my favorite races, and the reason is that it was so close. Like, the Acorn was leading barely, like maybe like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and he just panicked in getting the last gem and just really messed up, and that cost him the lead.
Yeah.
And he lost.
Yeah, I think he died right in front of it. Is the even more crushing thing about it. Like, it was right there.
After that, we have the Psychic Gamer versus EP, another great match, and very entertaining, I must say, for everyone who watched it, because it was a drinking game, and EP managed to get a win, an unexpected win.
Yeah, it's only because she's British and therefore she's like an alcoholic, and she's like completely immune to any effects of alcohol, basically.
Yeah.
But both of them apparently did throw up a fair bit. Definitely one of the highlights of round one.
Yeah, and thanks for wasting yourself. So
lesser than that, don't drink and drive. Otherwise that happens.
Yeah. Or don't drink at all. So
fucking cola, no fun.
So after that, we had EP versus Keyford. So this was the race, the only race that didn't have both opponents in it, and Keyford didn't do his side. So had EP's side.
He actually, I gave him an extra day. Like this, I shouldn't have done this, but I gave him an extra day after the deadline. I'm just like, Keyford, if you want to do your side, can you? I mean, it wouldn't have changed the standings of the group anyway, because this is between the last two people, between fourth and fifth. Like, if you want to do your side, you can do it. Just do it by midnight tonight. And he just did not reply to me. So, we gave him a lot of chances to do his match, and it's very unfortunate too, because this would have been a very even and interesting match between them. In Crash 1, it was the early levels, so we went. This wasn't the James Jones or the Fraser races where we were making them do later Crash 1 stuff. This was like early game, so Kiefer definitely had a chance to win that one, and very unfortunate that he didn't show up.
So after that, we had the Acorn versus Keyford in a Crash 2 race, and the Acorn scored a solid win against Keyford, who kind of lost track of a few crates, pretty much. So that kind of was the end of him. But we also had the guest star, and that's my cursor. So,
yeah, on both videos I noticed.
If there's ever going to be a highlights video for this tournament, I'm going to make sure to put in every cameo from Cola's Cursor. There's a lot of episodes that will have that cameo. Basically, also, be a recurring cast. Anyway, go on.
Make sure that in Cool Pro versus the Gangster, it was not my cursor on screen, just so you know.
Ooh. Okay.
After that, we had the Psychic Gamer versus Placey Hall. So this was actually a rematch, and so far it has been the only rematch. They kind of did the same goal, but this time Psychic managed to pull ahead and proving that both are pretty equal in skill when it comes to CTR. So
yeah, it was a pretty Psychic played almost perfectly, I think, and once again. He's another one of those people on the pile of kind of scary in Crash Team Racing. So maybe if it ever happens, we should definitely organize a race between him, Graveyard, Vinny, and MTB and Crash Team Racing. That'd be very interesting.
Maybe Abdul as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well of course. Well, Abdul's just good at everything, so he doesn't.
Psychic managed to actually win 3 matches. He lost 1 to EP. But he still is first in the group because he's head-to-head to Placey Hall. Placey Hall also has 3 wins and 1 loss, and the Acorn has 2 wins and he has 6 points, so he managed to pull ahead of EP because of head-to-head.
This is the only kind of uneven, weird group where it's not just 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. If there was not a rematch between Psychic Gamer and Placey Hall, it would have meant a triple threat between the Acorn EP and Psychic Gamer. But the Acorn makes it third place.
So rest in peace, EP. You're drunk.
Moving on to Group E. So there's Marcus Terry Bedford and Vinny Huber, and that was the one we talked about earlier, where Vinny Huber just like he's just so good at CTR. MTB is not bad as well, but yeah, he was just constantly getting platinums. Then there was Marcus Terry Bedford versus James Jones, which went like kind of the way that you would expect. Marcus did very well in Crash 2 against James Jones. He didn't really have a chance. Then there was Fremon versus Toonie SA, and Toonie, even though he's not a Crash guy, any stretch of the imagination, destroyed Fremont in Crash 1. That was another really funny race. And then we had MTB versus Fremont. MTB once again destroyed Fremont. And then we had Toonie SA versus Marcus Terry Bedford, and then Marcus destroyed Toonie. There's a lot of landslides in this group. And then we had Toonie SA versus James Jones, where Toonie won expectedly once again in Crash 3. Although I think James Jones did all right on this match compared to some of his other races. He wasn't too bad.
Yeah, he kind of kept up with Toonie for some time.
Yeah. I mean, not that Toonie's that great himself anyway. But there's Vinny Huber versus James Jones, and once again, James Jones is playing Crash 1. Thank you very much for playing Crash 1 again, James. I just it's just a match made in heaven, in my opinion. And Vinny did win, although he did have some fails himself, especially in the start of the race. But yeah, that was a good send off for the James Jones star. Vinny Huber versus Fremont. And Fremont, yeah, he had some issues. Apparently, Butterfingers and encountered resistance at every turn. He kept dying in Hang 'em High. Toonie versus Vinny, and Vinny continued to be unstoppable as he used neutral slide spin, while Toonie ran as fast as he could. And while Toonie had a good chance of catching up, he never did in the end. So that went predictably. Vinny smashing another one out of the park. And
though I would like to say that it was decently close in that race. It wasn't like Toonie was that much behind. So.
Yeah, it was like one level behind, I think.
Yeah.
So that's it for Group E. Toonie SA managed to qualify in third. I mean, it wasn't that difficult of a stretch, even if Crash is not his thing. Because Fremont and James Jones ended up being 4th and 5th, and Vinny Huber ended up being first after his win against MTB in Crash Team Racing. But yeah, definitely a strong showing by the first and second places of that group.
For Group F, since I kind of came in late, I'm probably the best one to know about all my matches at the very last leg of that group. So the first one was me versus Cola Pro. And I'm trying to remember what that. I think it was get all color gems, pretty much.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And I mean, I did okay, but I was kind of struggling in like quite a few levels. If anything, I definitely struggled on the lab. Thunder and Dark surprisingly went fine. Toxic Waste, I might have had a problem with, or maybe not. I don't know. It's kind of mixing up between me practicing and the actual race, but overall, Cola managed to do a lot better than I did.
Yeah, I pretty much went deathless until my control disconnected in
right, yeah.
the Lost City. And then I had to reset it, but I still managed to win, so it's fine.
I'm pretty sure Cola does Crash 1 any% runs like daily, so not too much of a surprise that he pulled that one off.
All right.
Crash 1 4 became my best game.
So the next one is me versus Danta, which at least I had some practice in as well. And Danta, he wasn't too familiar with Crash 3 either, but I think this is kind of a sign of the fact that he kind of was a bit more familiar with what he was doing than I was. I only practiced up to like Warp Room 3 or so, and that was it. So the first half went fine because I know what I was doing, but the latter half I started guessing and just picking things, and that wasn't a good idea. So that, and I think for some reason I went for like Orange Absol or something, and I missed one crate in there, for example. So yeah, like the latter half didn't work so well for me, and yeah, I didn't win that one either. The next one is Dr. Monkey Man versus, me again. So the battle of the two monkeys here, and Dr. Monkey Man was not doing too well in the group either. He was at least eager to get one win, and whether or not I intended to grant up that wish, it happened because I did decently, but for some reason I was just having all sorts of just comedy of errors happening, except like barely missing platforms and missing crates. So I missed like a few box gems, for example, and it just kind of kept piling up. But for some reason, it was like mostly the ones like you know, the surfing ones, I guess, where that a lot of that stuff happened, right? So yeah, at the very least, I thought I would be able to have a decent chance at that one, but no, it just never came together. And finally, me versus Abdul. Well, we decided to. I don't know if it's like the first Insane Trilogy race. It might have been. But either way, we decided to crash one and get a number of relics in it. I think 4 unique theme levels per island, something like that. And Abdul did pretty well, and I did pretty okay as well on first island. But then I stepped on the second one, and then it just fell apart. Because I had to do like, well, Road to Nowhere. There was also the temple level, and just. I mean, I guess it's kind of interesting that they added relics, but Crash 1 is kind of a game where it really doesn't want you to rush things, and I kind of found that out the hard way.
You had to get gold relics, didn't you, which made it even more difficult.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think that was a very difficult goal, that one. The only reason it didn't go over time is because Abdul is just that good at the Insane Trilogy. So yeah, Abdul basically it was a way for him to flex, much like Cola's race against you in Crash 1 as well.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and I mean overall, I kind of came in late to the group, if anything, so I didn't get too much time to practice. But I mean, there's not many reason not for me to do my races anyway.
Yeah, you did your races very quickly. I think it was like you finished them, I think like a week before the deadline or something like that. But that's kind of what we expected from you anyway, so.
At the very least, I got a little bit of practice in, so I was at least aiming to like do somewhat decently instead of just be predictable. Go like, oh, he's got to lose everyone. Go like, I'm gonna at least try.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for doing that, Dessert. I mean, thanks for.
Yeah, that's right. At least you tried, other than some other members of Group F that I'm thinking.
So, anyways, the group standings are: Abdul swept the group with 4 wins, 8 points. I am second with 3 wins, 1 lose to Abdul, and Dante is third, surprisingly maybe, with 2 wins and 2 losses, with 6 points, losing to me and Abdul. Dr. Monkeyman fourth, and Dessert fifth, unfortunately for him. But
we also have, rest in peace, the 2 dropouts, King DD and Polygonal Pixen. Pretty amusing that the replacement for the replacement was AWOL. But as we said, it didn't really seem to do too much harm.
So at the end of round 1, we had a decent variation of games played, which is good. And so we're gonna start off with CTR Nitro Field. So there were 2 races in Nitro Field, as you probably remember. And one of them was Abdul versus Denta, the other one was Crosstown Express versus Smudgy. So, and then there was huge adventure. There was 1 race, and it was me versus Abdul. There was 10 Crash 1 races if you count NST that Teaser did with Abdul. 18 Crash 2 and 3 races, which is very good. I was very pleased with that. That there were same amount of Crash 2 and 3 races in the tournament at the end, in the round 1. 7 CTR races, including Sai versus Yuhan rematch, or Psychic Gamer versus Placehole. 4 Crash Bash races, which is I'm also pleased for, because there were a lot more in the first tournament. And 1 Wrath of Cortex race. So in total, there's 61 races in round 1.
Yeah, so I think when we did this at first, Crash 2 was like leading quite massively in terms of races played. So there was a lot of Crash 3 done in the second half of round 1, which I kind of pushed for because I was getting a bit sick of Crash 2. So yeah, I'm very pleased that we kind of had an equal distribution. Would have liked to see some more Crash 1 races, but I know it's not as popular. So you know, but
I actually didn't do any Crash 2 races in round 1.
Very good. I congratulate you, Holt.
Yeah. So we're gonna continue to Roti Pot, which is our favorite races of the tournament. So I guess Katoto, you can go first.
Okay, so my favorite races of round 1. For some reason, Group C really took my kind of fancy in round 1. I already said I liked Zendictive versus Averso on the halftime show, but this time I think I really liked Cool Pro versus Averso. It was another Crash 1 race. Jeez, I'm so plain. I'm just like liking all these Crash 1 races, but yeah, that was really enjoyable. I just really like seeing people try to play Crash 1, and it really frustrated Cool Pro. He had a really kind of hard time, but it was a bit amusing. And yeah, that was another show of Averso skill. I also really liked Cool Pro versus Lucas Bolton. This is the one that went over time, but I just liked it that they were failing and struggling, and but they just kept on going. They didn't give up. They didn't get too tired. And it was unfortunate that race didn't end up finishing, but it almost did. And I just want to give like massive props to them for proceeding despite having some real difficult issues. Yeah, so Group C, I don't know why, just a very entertaining group.
So Dessert, what are your favorite races?
So my two would be Psychic Gamer versus EP, maybe because how entertaining it was. I was just kind of curious how this was gonna go, and well, it definitely went somewhere, but didn't. I don't think they got as far as they thought they would, at the very least.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna get a bit further, but yeah, basically, Psychic Gamer pulled the plug about halfway in.
Yeah.
Not that we can blame him or anything, but yeah, that much cider is it seems pretty deadly.
Yeah, and the other one would be TK versus Yoga Manyo, maybe because they played Crash 2 Cortex Fix Kids back, and I was really more curious how that race was going to go, if anything. Like, like, are they going to even get out of Warp Room 1?
Yeah, like you've 100% of that, right?
Yeah, with save states, if anything.
It still counts. That game's made to be played with save states.
Yeah,
because it crashes all the time, you have to use save states basically.
Yeah, like I'm kind of interested that they at least went in order at the very least, and go like, either they're gonna find out early on that Crash is, well, crushing, or they're gonna find out at the very end.
I was thinking that they would have gone pretty far, and then went to Crash, I'm like, wait, I remember that there's something weird in this level.
Yes,
yeah.
Nitro crates. Sometimes they bounce
everywhere
too.
Yeah, it's pretty much just RNG. Yeah.
Yeah. So my favorites are Bicycle versus the Acorn, actually, just because it was so nerve-wracking to see if the Acorn's gonna win it or not. It was very, very fun to watch, pretty much, and especially at the end of the race. Like it was close all the way to the end. It was just a great race. I guess my second pick would be Dark Lizard versus Crash Numbers, I think, because that was again another close race. Very tight moments, as I said earlier, and especially for Dark Lizard, and I was very happy to see such a good race as well. It really had me like sitting on the edge of my seat, for it. So,
yeah, and that was the only race that Crash 1596 did live. So I did enjoy seeing that, because obviously I hadn't seen him in one of these tournaments since like 2012. He's also beat the Crash 1596 is the record for the longest gap between tournaments. It was like around about 8 years, which is close to Silence Master and Elvis Man, but not quite. They were about 7.5 or 7 and 7 months or something. All right, so I think we've gone over pretty much everything. We actually have to go really quickly because we were about to do this race with the games raced awfully. Go subscribe to them. We'll put a link in the description. They're kind of our friends, basically. They're having a Crash 3 Gem race that all three of us are involved with. We're actually holding it up by being in this call. So we're going to
just tapping his wristwatch, go like, get in here.
Yeah, we're sorry.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, all right. So we're going to go, but thank you very much for watching. We'll be back at the end of round 2 for another analyzation of that. But thank you very much to everyone for making round 1 as much of a success it was. I was very happy with how everything went, yeah, really looking forward to seeing round 2 and beyond. Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah, good luck. Goodbye.
Bye.
Great, finally.